welcome to our Nebraska Cornhuskers 2025 season preview video here on the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor if you don't mind, everybody, and smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, even if you are a Cornhusker fan and you have found your way here to the OHIO podcast to watch this preview. We appreciate you. We appreciate Cornhusker fans. Chris and I, we like the Cornhusker fans, and we love the Common Fan podcast over there in the land of corn. Those guys are some of our favorite. We're going to be talking to them here shortly as we preview this season for you guys. And so consider subscribing to the channel, help us out. Make sure you ring the bell, get notified if you so desire, and please, by all means, let us know what you think about what we think down in the comments section below, especially about your team if you indeed are a Cornhusker fan. Chris, year 3 of Matt Rule, after year 2 of improvements, and this has been the blueprint that he has had in previous stops in college football, including UMass and Baylor, and now doing so in Nebraska. And year 3 was always the big step in those schools when they took a massive step forward. And I think that there is some cautious optimism there in the land of Lincoln that this possibly could maybe happen for them.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm very optimistic about the Cornhuskers this year. I think this is a team that realistically, is going to have a good season. And if they are at their best at key moments, this is a team that can make a push to get a playoff spot.
Yeah, I like that. If they are their best at key moments, I like how you put that. You look back at last year, and there were some games when they played really well, and then there were some stinkers, and that inconsistency, I think, was to be expected when you're starting a true freshman at quarterback. As talented as Dylan Raiola was and is, he was still an 18-year-old kid playing 21, 22-year-old men who had been in college and had 3 to 4 years of development in the best conference in college football, if I do say so myself. And so there's going to be moments of growing pains, you could say.
Opportunities.
Yeah, opportunities. There you go.
And Eric, this is a team too that, if you think about it, I don't know that any team has lost more close games over the last few years than Nebraska.
Yeah, it was almost.
They always seem to be right on the cusp.
Yeah, and they have found every single way to lose a game. Just for the last couple decades, man. That being said, let's dive into their season, the season that was last year, a little bit of the history, and then we're going to get into our great interview with Mr. Burkle. So 2024, they started the year off with victories over UTEP, Colorado, and Northern Iowa in the non-con before dropping a tough one against Illinois in overtime. That was an Illinois team that ended up just on the outside looking in at the college football playoff, and is this year considered by many to be the 4th team from the Big Ten to maybe get into the college football playoff. So they lost that one, but it was in overtime. They beat Purdue and Rutgers, and then the wheels kind of fell off for them. They lost one of those games at Bloomington, Indiana that, like you said, you called it an opportunity. I call it growing pains. 56-7. They then come right back, travel to Columbus, and gave us a scare. 21-17, Chris. That was a heck of a game. And then they go out to Los Angeles. They lose to UCLA in a game they probably wish they had back. They lose to they lose to UCLA at home. Then they go out to LA and they lose to USC 28-20. But that UCLA loss at home, I think, was a bitter pill to swallow for them. Then they make a coaching change, right? And they end up winning 2 out of the last 3. They beat Wisconsin 44-25. That's how they get bowl eligible. They lose again to Iowa in just unbelievable fashion. They should have had that game won. And quite frankly, I think they will win that game this year. If you kind of foreshadowing here. And then they go out to, I think it was the Pinstripe Bowl, and they beat Boston College
Mm-hmm.
in a bowl game. First time they've been in a bowl game in quite a few years. They win it. Good moment for Nebraska football. Last year, Vegas said 7.5. Chris, we both were actually pretty high on Nebraska a year ago. I was at 9-3. You were at 8-4. I think I was drinking some of the Rule Aid that the Common Fan podcast was dishing out last summer. And so we both were wrong because they got to 6 wins during the regular season, not 8 or more. But anyways, long story short, they go 7-6 overall last season. Matt Rule's now 12-13 at Nebraska overall in his 2 years there, playing at Memorial Stadium with seats just over 85,000. Nebraska now has 924 wins to 430 losses and 40 ties. They have a bowl record now of 27-27 and 46 conference titles to their credit. Chris, let me ask you this question. Is Nebraska a blue blood? That's not a fair question. Yeah, they were a blue blood. Have they
They were.
lost blue blood status? Maybe is the question I should ask.
I believe they have. I've been very critical of that team up north and their blue blood status.
Yeah.
Nebraska's been relevant a hell of a lot more recently than they have, though. Um,
They dominated the 90s.
they
But
dominated the '90s, so
that was
for
a
me
quarter of
to,
a quarter of a century ago though.
yeah, exactly. But you go back, and I go back 75 years almost to boot out the loserines there. But I would say this, Eric. I think they're on the verge of losing their blue blood status. I think they're at a crossroads right now. This is the point where, like you said, it's been a quarter of a decade, or a quarter of a century rather. You have got to come out and you have got to win and win significantly over the course of the next few years. And if you do not, I say, yeah, you kind of fall by the wayside on that blue blood pile. Um, because since the 90s, you haven't. Well, let's look at it. Their last title came at the same time as that team up north's last legitimate title.
Yeah.
They split it in 97.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, I can't criticize one and not criticize the other.
Yeah.
However, Nebraska, like you said, did own the 90s, which is why I give them a little more leniency and haven't booted them out of the club just yet.
Well, I guess kudos to you for consistency. Um, but if you ask me my opinion, yeah, they've lost blue blood status because if you are of the age of, I guess, 35 or younger, and I'm picking that age because I don't really think you were cognitively able to maybe remember when Nebraska was last good. You've never seen Nebraska in the national contention, and so that's why I'm going to say yeah, they've lost blue blood status. But I want to know what you all think. So here's the first question of this podcast: is Nebraska blue blood by your definition, or have they lost blue blood status because of their inability to remain relevant on the national stage? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. All right, Chris. Let's go ahead and let's bring on TJ Burkle from the Common Fan podcast. This is a great interview. It is in depth. It is a well of knowledge this man brings to the table here about his Cornhuskers. And if you are a Nebraska fan, this guy will not need any introduction. You know who he is. If you are not, he is one of the genuinely good people to work with, and I'm happy that we're partnering with him over at the College Huddle. Let's take it away. Let's go to this interview. And now we are joined by TJ Burkle. He is the host of the Common Fan, our sister podcast over on the College Huddle. TJ, welcome back. It's been a while since we've had a chance to speak with each other, and since then, I feel like Nebraska accomplished some things. They got back to a bowl game, and now here they're going into year number 3 of Matt Rule, which was always kind of highlighted by everybody as how far will he have Nebraska back. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's start there, TJ. Talk about how last year went, how it finished, and where the pulse of the fan base was going into the offseason.
Yeah, well, and you failed to mention, Eric, we've won another offseason national championship since the last time we spoke.
My bad.
Yeah, so I wish you would have mentioned that. It's kind of frustrating that you would have left that out. No, just kidding.
Just like a good Buckeye fan doesn't want to give you credit.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. No, the Husker fan base is fantastic at winning the off season. But no, to answer your question, look, I think you, by any measure, 2024 was a success. It has to be considered a success considering where Nebraska football was coming from. You know, no bowl game, no winning season since 2016. That's pretty painful. And so they went 6-6 and then won the bowl game to go 7-6. There's a little bit of nuance there though, because we started 5-1. And so I think there was a lot of optimism in Husker Nation. Even that loss was to a pretty good Illinois team in a game that went into overtime. We kind of fell apart in overtime, but it was a great game. And then we got blown out by Indiana. Had a great game against Ohio State, but obviously came up short in that one. Unexpectedly lost to a not very good UCLA team. Played USC pretty well, lost that one. Like suddenly it's like, what's going on? Are we going to miss a bowl game again? Are we going to go from 5-1 to 5-7? And that's what prompted Coach Rule to shake up his staff 9 games into the season. And he basically demoted Marcus Satterfield, who's been with him a long time and had been his offensive coordinator, and brought in Dana Holgerson. And honestly, I mean, I think that probably was the reason we won the Wisconsin game. And so we beat Wisconsin pretty handily, had the best offensive output of the season, got the season back on track. Very annoyingly outplayed Iowa in every possible statistical category and still handed that game away at the end. So really, we're very close to finishing 7-5, but you know, we got to own that L. No excuses, right? So again, we finished 6-6, went to the Pinstripe Bowl, beat Boston College. I think getting to a bowl game and winning the bowl game, like it's funny, like we were really on the razor's edge and the season could have gone either way, especially after starting 5-1. I think getting to the bowl game, winning the bowl game, doesn't matter where it was, doesn't matter who the opponent was. I think that really helped the morale of the fan base and kind of catapulted us into the offseason. And I think there's a lot of optimism going into year 3. I'll stop there. I know we'll get into year 3 and all that stuff, but I think
Yeah.
there's a mix of hope and optimism. I mean, I see a lot more realism from Husker fans these days because it's been so long. Like since we beat Minnesota or since we beat some of these teams we always feel like we're better than and should beat. It's sort of like prove it mode for the fan base right now.
Yeah. Year 3, Matt Rule. This was always, I felt like I stated at the beginning, if I were to, I guess, get a questionnaire out amongst Nebraska fans and Big Ten fans alike, it was always Matt Rule in year 3 seems to turn the corner. He's done it multiple times before with multiple programs. Would he do the same with Nebraska? And I think does that have to play with any of the optimism that you're feeling from the Cornhusker fan base?
I think so. You look at his time at Temple. His first year, he was 2-10. Then they went 6-6 in year 2, and then they took a leap to 10-4. When he was at Baylor, they went 1-11. Year 2, they went 7-6. Year 3, they went 11-3. And so I think people look at that and say he's always kind of been a builder. He's always kind of, other people do it different ways. Look at Signetti at Indiana, for instance. He kind of flipped that thing right away. Rule's always done it a certain way. Here's what I would say, though, and we've talked about this on our show. I mean, like I think both Temple and Baylor were bigger dumpster fires, believe it or not, than Nebraska was when Rule took over. And we left a lot of wins on the field in 2023 and 2024 in terms like mistake driven, poor special teams, like games where we probably outplayed the other team. and didn't get the win. And so it's sort of like, sort of like, sure, but we probably should have been at least 6-6 in 2023. We probably should have been 7-5 or better in 2024. And so there's always that nagging feeling in the back of our minds, like, are we going to get over the hump and get better at closing out games and winning close games? And the other thing I would offer, Eric, is just it's a drastically different landscape than even when Rule was at Baylor, however many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, whatever that was. It's a brand new ballgame in college football. And the NIL transfer portal, all the reasons everybody knows. And so, like, just because that's been the pattern before is not a guarantee that that'll happen again. We all hope it happens. We all want it to happen. And the schedule lines up pretty well. We make the joke on our show, if you want to sleep really poorly at night, look at the 2026 schedule. But the 2025 schedule for Nebraska lines up pretty well. Again, we're at a place as Nebraska football where we cannot take anyone for granted. We haven't beat any of these teams that we've historically been better than regularly enough to take anyone for granted. And so we have to prove it. But at least if you look at it on paper, it's more it would be more manageable for anyone in 2025 versus what they face in 2026.
Well, one of the reasons I think that optimism can reign supreme in Nebraska is the fact that Dylan Raiola goes into year number 2, having played an entire year as an 18, 19-year-old freshman in Division I college football and doing it successfully at 7-6. He's got one more year of development, one more year of I guess you could say continuity within the offense, one more year of being a college student, which I can't imagine being a freshman in college and the starting quarterback at a blue blood school. Like, come on. So I gotta feel like going in year number 2, Dylan Raiola is he doesn't have the same kind of deer in the headlight look maybe that he started off with, albeit he did start off 5-1 as a starter,
Right.
But then you know
Struggling a little
reality,
bit. Yeah.
reality smacked him in the face, and so in the second half of the season, but he did bounce back. So I gotta feel like he's gotta have that confidence level there, and he's probably one of the younger, uh, I guess you could say, leaders of a program in college football, being only a sophomore. Him and probably Jeremiah Smith are two of the bigger sophomore names, at least in the Big Ten, that you can highlight.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, he had a solid true freshman season. He's a true freshman playing Big Ten college football, right? Like, I mean, he threw for over 2,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Like you said, I think out of the gate, it was kind of this like, whoa, baby, he is as advertised, right? I mean, some of the early games looked pretty good. And then kind of mid-season, I think he was dealing with a little bit of injury stuff, but the offense really stalled there for several games. And then kind of picked back up again the Wisconsin game, the bowl game. There was some really good looking stuff. So I think the hope is, one, just after a true freshman season, a lot of learning on the job, there'd naturally be a next step forward. And then two, when Holgerson took over 9 games into the season, when he would do press conference, he was referring to players by their numbers. Like, he didn't know anybody's names yet, right? So now we've got a full off season with Dana Holgerson, who I think many would agree is one of the best offensive minds in college football. And then we went out and got some wide receivers in the transfer portal. And there's a lot, I think, of optimism for different reasons about why the offense should look better this year. And the other thing is, the Rule came in and completely flipped the defense in 2023. I mean, we've had top 25 defenses Rule's first 2 years. Now, we had a lot of changes on defense, including a new defensive coordinator. So we'll see in 2025. But what we've said on our show multiple times is, man, if the offense could have just been average in 2023 or average in 2024, that's probably worth 2 to 3 more wins in each of those years. And so the question is, can the defense hold steady or not take too much of a step back? And then can the offense really take a leap in a way that we haven't seen them in the Rule era? Like, I mean, the offense has really been a liability up to this point. And so the hope is, for all those reasons, your two for Raiola, Holgerson's tutelage, think, Rule's probably feeling a little more urgency to win. For all these reasons, hopefully we see the offense take a big leap forward.
Let's talk about some of those new transfer portal wide receivers that you brought in as we try to kind of build this offense here and look at the starters around Dylan Raiola. So let's start at the wide receivers. Kind of give me your take on who you believe the starters will be at the receiver position.
Yeah, I mean, so I think your top guys. I don't know about starters, and I mean, I think Dane Key is a transfer from Kentucky. He's got 1 year. He's a senior. I think he's like in the top 15 all time at Kentucky already with the numbers that he's put up. He's going to start. Like he's going to be a factor. He's going to be a big time target for Dylan. You got Ja'Cory Barney coming back, who as a true freshman last year played in all 13 games. Really, like he's not a big guy, but really electric, really athletic. Would just get smacked and pop right up every time. Just like one of those like really gritty type of guys. So Barney will be in the mix. I think he'll probably he may well start. Neziah Hunter is a transfer from Cal. If I recall correctly, he had a redshirt year at Cal and then had one season at Cal where he put up pretty decent numbers. And so Hunter, I think, will be in the mix. A lot of people think he's going to start. Janiran Bonner is another one where I don't know, like he'll be a factor. And he's a guy a little bit bigger and he didn't have like eye-popping numbers last year, but he's kind of like can sort of be like H-back, almost tight end, but then also be like he's considered a wide receiver. So they use him in different packages. And he had some key catches for us last year. And then the other thing to watch in the wide receiver room is they brought in a really talented group of true freshmen. So Cortez Mills is expected to see the field right away. Jeremiah Jones is a freak athlete who may well see the field right away. And then what's really interesting, I'm sure we'll talk about the running back room. Isaiah Mosey is another 4-star wide receiver recruit that folks are really excited about, and they're moving him to running back. So again, I don't know if that means like, under Frost, it was called the Duck R position, kind of that like Oregon, you can line up in the backfield or wide, just catch the ball, do different things. I don't know if it's going to be that or more like a downhill runner, but I'm anxious just to see what the deal is with Mosey as well.
Well, let's just go there. Who will be the other
Sure.
backs?
Yeah, so your guy is Emmett Johnson. He's the starter. He's the guy. Going into last year, we had 3 and sometimes 4 running backs that were considered sort of in the rotation. I dare say, Eric, on the Common Fan podcast, we said before the season that Emmett Johnson was your best overall back. And what's really fascinating or not intriguing about him is his usage and his numbers went way up the last 3 games in the bowl game when Dana Holgorsen took over as offensive coordinator. So I think it's a perfect fit of a guy who's going to be maximized in Holgorsen's system. And he's really elusive. He's a solid running back out of the backfield. He catches the ball out of the backfield. So Emmett Johnson's your guy. But, I think especially in this day and age, especially in the Big Ten, you need more than one. And so there's a little bit of a question mark because pretty much everyone else on the roster hasn't proven it for all intents and purposes at the college level. The other 2 I would point out are Quentin Ives and Mekhi Nelson. I think they'll both get a chance and be in the rotation. I could tell you things that I've heard or that I've read. I think nobody really knows until we start seeing live bullets and who's getting the reps and what situations and that kind of thing. And then the other thing I would say, like I said, is Isaiah Mosey at the running back spot. Excuse me, why that's intriguing, Eric, is because I think he was expected to see reps like get on the field as a true freshman at the wide receiver position. And so if he was good enough to do that, are you going to move him to running back where he can't contribute right away? I would assume the move to running back means he's shown something that suggests he can contribute right away at the running back position.
Yeah, that's interesting. What's going on at tight end? I mean, you have Henrik, who's had experience, and then Luke Lindenmeyer on our lads is the one that they're saying is going to be the starter. Really?
So Heinrich Harburg, has basically been he came to Nebraska as a quarterback, and he started I think 7 games maybe if I recall correctly in 2023. And then, and that was kind of out of necessity more than anything, but really athletic guy. I think his
Mm-hmm.
dad is a college football player. His mom's an Olympian, like super, super, and really rugged, sturdy guy. Like he was, they kind of went back to the option basically when he was playing quarterback in 2023. And then he was Dylan's backup for most of last year. And occasionally, like he caught a pass. Oh wait, he caught a anyway. I think he caught a pass in the. Now I'm thinking. I think he caught a pass in 2023 against Minnesota. But anyway, but Harburg, he's been an athletic guy, and we kind of said, are they going to find different ways to use him? He approached the coaching staff before the bowl game and basically said, "I want to commit full time to being a tight end." So I think there's a lot of intrigue around Harburg,
Yeah.
and can he be the starting tight end? Again, he's only got 1 year of eligibility left. Really athletic. We know he can run with the ball. I think he'll absolutely factor in to the offense. Lindenmeyer was kind of a go. I do think Lindenmeyer could be considered a starter because he's got more experience at the position, and he made some plays last year. He had some catches last year, and then the other two guys are Mac Markway is a transfer from LSU, and just in the last week or two has been getting a ton of run and chatter kind of about being he's fully healthy because I think he had some injury issues. He's fully healthy and I think he's expected to be a major contributor. And then the one I'm really fascinated by, Eric, and excited about is Carter Nelson. So he's a Nebraska guy, super athletic. As a true freshman last year, he was recruited to be a tight end, but as a true freshman last year, they kind of like the thinking was maybe he hasn't bulked up enough. He hasn't enough time, coming straight from high school to bulk up enough to play tight end, but they got him on the field as a wide receiver because he's so athletic. And so he's listed as a tight end. I think he just got interviewed and said he put on 20 or 25 pounds in the offseason. I don't think that he's expected to carry the load or the burden's going to fall on him all season long, but I'm excited to see what Carter Nelson can bring too.
All right, finally, let's talk offensive line. I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the big boys up front if we're going to talk about Nebraska, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this just kind of was discussed at Big Ten Media Days. I think the early thinking is Justin Evans is going to be your starting center. You're going to have Henry Latovsky, who's a senior and played a ton of snaps, started a ton of games for Nebraska. He's going to be one of your guards, and then Rocco Spindler, who's a transfer from Notre Dame and played a ton for that team that went to the national
Yes,
championship
he
game.
did.
Rocco's going to be the other starting guard. And then at the tackle position, Elijah Pritchett, who transferred from Alabama, is going to be one of your tackles. And then Tyler, I always screw up his name. It's spelled Knaak. Tyler Knaak, I think, is considered the front runner at right tackle for Nebraska going into fall camp. What's interesting about that, though, is you have some other guys, two seniors in particular, who have played a ton of football and started a ton for the Huskers. In Turner Corcoran, who's been kind of a swing, he's been both a guard and a tackle, and then Teddy Prohaska, who's 6'9", 300 plus pounds. He's a big guy, battled multiple injuries, but he's a Nebraska boy. And, he started many games at tackle as well. So you got Corcoran and Prohaska. And then you've also got Gunnar Gatula, who is a sophomore only, but started multiple games at tackle as well due to some injuries last year. And so the way I look at that, Eric, is it feels like for many years for Nebraska, we maybe had two tackles on offense, and then it was like, what do we do after that? And so it's exciting to think that if we got 5 tackles in the mix that have played a lot of football and are like considered to be able to contribute, I think that's significant. I mean, one of the first thing, one of the rules first two recruiting classes in particular, um, really and like brought in a ton of offensive linemen. And so some of those guys are starting to get in the mix now. And I think that's really exciting because, as Ohio State dealt with it last year. You got to have you got to be too deep on the offensive line if you think you can do anything in the Big Ten, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like. And that's a luxury that oftentimes teams don't have. Nebraska hasn't
Yep.
had it very often, but I think maybe we're closer than we've ever been.
Very good. Yeah, it seems like it. That's one of the things that I always look for when making predictions is offensive line experience and depth, because that to me kind of it's one of the reasons why I think Ohio State's got a very good chance of beating Texas in game one, is that offensive line had so much experience because they were forced into having experience. So
Right.
yeah, it'll just be, can the transfer mix in with the homegrown guys, and can they develop that chemistry quickly? That's the question. Let's go over to the defensive side of the ball now. You mentioned that obviously defensively you guys were kind of led by the defense the last couple years, but now, there might be some turnover and things of that nature. Let's start up front and work our way backwards.
Yeah, sure. And I'm going to say up front, we always say on the Common Fan podcast, listen to the name Common Fan. We're not X's and O's guys. So I want to, and this, in the 3-3-5 defense that Nebraska runs, they've got guys that are, you would think they're defensive linemen, but they're considered linebackers, or they line up on the line, then they line up as, so I'll talk about them as they're listed on the roster. And I won't try to pretend like I'm an expert in the 3-3-5 or who fits at the jack linebacker spot or whatever. Right. Okay. But I will say this to start. I mean, two big losses on the defensive line, Nash Hutmaker and Ty Robinson, both, going to play in the NFL, both guys that were at Nebraska going back to almost the beginning of the Frost era. We got guys that were at Nebraska a really, really long time and big time contributors. And by last year, I mean, just led the defense, right? And we're fantastic. So those are big losses. We kind of have some transition and losses at every level of the defense. We also added some pieces that are really exciting. But what we said on our show, but we need for it to work and for the defense to either hold steady with where they've been or at least not take too big of a step back. We're going to need several new guys, whether that's transfers or younger guys who have been on the roster and it's their time to step up. We're going to need several new guys to contribute, where that hasn't necessarily been the case. Jamari Butler's another one who we lost to Florida State. He went to LSU, I think. James Williams was kind of a pass rushing specialist. He went with Tony White to Florida State. And so we lost several dudes on defense. Prince Will Uman-Mielen is another one who transferred to Ole Miss to play with his brother. So just a ton of talent and contributions on defense that we lost. So I'll kind of walk you through what replaced them and where we are. On the defensive line in particular, Elijah Judy transferred from A&M, I want to say 2 years ago. He's got 1 year left of eligibility. He's been a depth piece, but he's been a solid contributor. He'll certainly be in the rotation. Cam Lenhart is a guy who in 2023 Rule's first year, he was a freshman All-American, didn't contribute as much last year, but would love to see him take a step forward this year. Jalen George is a transfer from, I want to say East Tennessee State. I hope I didn't screw that up, Jalen. Some chatter out of going into camp, I think, that he's expected to help anchor the defensive line and be a major contributor. And then there's some young guys that we really need to step forward. The one that's at the top of the list for me is Riley Van Poppel. And he's a guy that has been compared to Ty Robinson. And even the thought has been he's got maybe a higher ceiling than Ty Robinson. That's not really fair. I feel like it's never fair to compare a young guy who hasn't played a ton to somebody who's done it and put up the numbers. But there's a ton of hope and optimism about Riley Van Poppel. Keona Davis is another one. He's only a sophomore. He's kind of a freak athletically, and went in the transfer portal when Nebraska lost their defensive coordinator last year. They were able to lure him back. That was a big sort of recruiting win for the Huskers. So I'm excited about Davis. And then one other name I would flag for you is Williams Winery, who was a 5-star out of high school and spent a year at Missouri, although he had interest in Nebraska out of high school. And then we were able to grab him out of the transfer portal this year. And so he's a younger guy, interested to kind of see where he lands. And then we have two guys I'm really excited about that are true freshmen. So you just never know, especially at the line positions on either side of the ball. You always wonder how much a true freshman is going to contribute. But Rule has shown that if someone's ready and they're able to contribute, he'll let them play. And so two guys on that front, one is Malcolm Simpson, who's just kind of an athletic freak. The other one is Tyson Terry. Reminds me a lot of Nash Hutmaker, who was also a wrestler in high school. Terry went something ridiculous like 160-0 as a high school wrestler, won 4 state championships, including he won a state championship on a torn ACL as a wrestler this last year. So he's an Omaha kid. So it's all the things how Nebraska fans love, right?
Yeah.
The question is like, a true freshman on the defensive line, some pretty good depth in front of him, and coming off an ACL injury, like probably not a 2025 guy necessarily, but really excited about Tyson Terry for the future.
Okay. Let's move back one level now.
So on the defensive side of the ball, we lost a number of guys. Again, another area where we lost a number of guys. John Bullock was a senior, major contributor. Mikai Bayer would have been a senior, but ended up transferring. Stefan Thompson had kind of followed Tony White, the defensive coordinator, to different spots, so knew the system really well. All those guys are gone. Thompson had one more year left as well. So this is one of the positions I'm probably most concerned about. But at the same time, it's got a really fascinating mix of transfer additions and younger guys and new recruits that I think if enough guys hit, could be a strength of the defense. So we got Dasan McCullough from Oklahoma, really athletic. Everyone's really excited about him. And he was a contributor at Indiana first, then transferred to Oklahoma. He's definitely, I think, going to be a starter. Marquez Watson Trent, kind of funny there. He came from Georgia Southern and was on the Georgia Southern team. It's painful for me to talk about, on the Georgia Southern team that beat Scott Frost's team, which was the nail in the coffin. And Frost was fired the next day, which was only game 3 in the 2022 season. So anyway, it's come full circle for Marquez Watson Trent, and now he's a Cornhusker. But he's another one who is expected to contribute. Javen Wright is a 6th-year senior and absolutely will contribute. He's battled like blood clots and had some weird injury situations, but I think as long as he's healthy, he'll be a major contributor. And then 2 young guys I would flag who were major contributors. And what was exciting about these guys is they contributed more as the season went on, or Vincent Shavers and Willis McGahee the fourth. And they kind of peaked in the bowl game, which is kind of what you want to see, right? Both super athletic. They're only sophomores. Maverick Noonan's another one. His dad's a Husker. He's battled some injury issues. I think he's all the way back to being fully healthy, and excited to see if he can be a contributor this year. And then there's 2 guys that I'm super excited about. Dawson Merritt that are true freshmen. Dawson Merritt was committed to Alabama, and we were able to flip him. And he's a true freshman. And Christian Jones is a 4-star who was considering Notre Dame. I can't remember if he had committed to Notre Dame or not, but we ended up luring him, and he's out of Omaha. And so those are 2 guys who, again, Rule has shown if these guys can contribute right away, he's willing to let them do it. So I guess the reason this one is a question mark for me is you could argue Javen Wright obviously is a veteran. McGahee and Shavers are 2 young guys who looked good last year, but they're young. And everyone else is like, you're hoping a transfer hits, or you're hoping a young guy can play, or you're hoping a guy who's been on the roster a couple of years can be now healthy and contribute. So I think there's a lot of promising stuff there. And like, if it all goes well, they could be more athletic even than they were a year ago or the year before that. But we just need to see it, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, one more position group. Let's go the secondary. We'll start with corners first for you guys, and then we'll hit the safeties last.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska has about 417 defensive backs. And so it's a little, I expect to see some attrition in the defensive back room. I don't know, at some point. But I mean, you've got Sayar Wright was a contributor at cornerback last year. Andrew Marshall transferred from Idaho. I think he's expected probably to be a starter at cornerback. Who else am I looking at? Bly Hill it transferred and injured himself in the spring game before the 2024 season, but there was chatter that he was in the mix at cornerback. So interested to see where he can play. What's really fascinating, if you go to the scholarship distribution chart or the roster, Eric, you'll see that's like the biggest number of guys. And I think you might see a number of these guys contribute. So Caleb Benning is one. His dad's another one who's a Husker. He was a running back at Nebraska. I think you're going to see Benning get on the field. I think you're going to see Amari Sanders contribute. Who else is the other one? Donovan Jones is another one. I may be mixing up. I must admit, I'm not fully up to speed on who's all a corner and who's all a safety. And I know some guys have switched back and forth. But they're going to have a ton to work with at the cornerback spot this year, and safety for that matter.
Sounds like they're just kind of throwing uh, quantity at it and see what comes out of it, huh? Just
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that a little bit, but I mean, this is the one where I think they're going to have enough guys that hopefully they hit, right?
yeah, yeah. Just throw enough at it and see what sticks. Sometimes that can work out. It anything in special teams at all that would
It,
worth be mentioning?
definitely. Well, yeah, it's definitely. Sorry, I would also say. So I think at the safety spot, you've got
Okay,
Deshaun Singleton. Malcolm Hartzog is one who's played both safety and corner and a little bit of that nickelback or whatever the rover, whatever you call it, for lack of a better word. All three of those guys are seniors, and so I think all three of those guys are going to be major contributors in the defensive backfield. And then again, Bryce Turner is another one. I think he had at least a pick that I can think of last year, maybe multiple picks, who's probably get in the mix at safety. I'm just interested to see what the chatter is once fall camp starts and where some of these guys land at positions.
yeah.
To your question about special teams, I mean, that's it's
Well,
been,
listen, I have to ask because I just got
yeah.
done interviewing Iowa, and literally they would yell at you if you didn't talk about punting and kicking. I mean, that's their
No,
thing. So
well, and I laugh because it's been such an eyesore for Nebraska for way too long. I mean, we have yelled and kicked and screamed on our podcast about special teams because I always feel like if you devote enough time to it, a high school team should be able to fix special teams in a year, right? Like we will go year after year and say, why isn't this fixed, right? Here's the exciting thing on special teams. We went and got Mike Eckler, who was Tennessee's special teams coordinator and had some of the best special teams units in the country in the years he was there. Mike Eckler is from David City, Nebraska, which is where, by the way, the Burkles come from. Small community of about 2,500 people. And he like, he was a graduate assistant on. I'm trying to remember. I think he was a graduate assistant for Callahan, assistant on Pelini's staff. Please forgive me, Husker fans, if I screwed that up. I need to remind myself. But he's coached at Nebraska before. It means the world to him. And like he played at Kansas State, where he was like a special teams guru and was a walk on there. But like he lives and breathes Nebraska football. And so there is a major belief that not only is he going to fix special teams, but he's the kind of guy that like you'd see him like bouncing up on my lasting impression of him is on the Pelini staff, bouncing up and down on the sideline. He's just got a motor that doesn't quit. And so Eckler is back, and there's a big belief not only that he's going to fix special teams, but that his energy is just sort of infused throughout the program and been a net like major positive for the program. So if special teams isn't better this year, special teams is another one of those. It's sad that this was true of both the offense and special teams in recent years, where if they could have just been average the last couple of years, forget about good, just average. Again, probably, I mean, special teams directly cost us multiple wins that I can think of off the top of my head in both Rule's first 2 years and the Frost era. And so if we could just have average special teams, probably good for a win or two. John Hole and Tristan Alvano are your two place kickers. Alvano was really good coming out of high school. He's a Nebraska kid. Struggled a little bit as a true freshman, was kind of forced into duty and then battled injuries last year. So John Hole kicked in his place. Hole had some really promising moments. He kicked 3 field goals against Ohio State, for instance. He had some bad misses too, but several of those, like it wasn't just a one-off thing. Several of those were like bad snaps and or bad holds. So it's hard to know how much of that to put on him. It was just the whole unit was a mess last year. And so we are like hopeful that the whole unit not just improves, like can get slightly above average this year. That would be a major step forward for the Huskers.
all right, we've talked a little bit about what the offseason looked like. You now got your roster rundown, everybody. Let's dive into the season, into the schedule here, and let's see if we can't come up with a consensus floor and ceiling for the Huskers in 2025. You start the season off on a Thursday night, August 28th, at 9 o'clock Eastern kick on ESPN against the Cincinnati Bear Kittens from the Big 12. That still sounds so weird saying that, but here we are in 2025, a Big 10 Nebraska and a Big 12 Cincinnati.
strange, brave new world, brave new world.
I think this one should be a Nebraska win and a convincing one. Although it is an Arrowhead Stadium, so you're playing this one in Kansas City, Missouri. Uh, so a little bit closer drive still for Nebraska than Cincinnati fans.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it was originally going to be in Indianapolis and is technically considered a home game for Cincinnati. For some reason, Cincinnati agreed to move to Kansas City. I think it'll be majority Husker fans in
Yeah.
that stadium. This one scares me a little bit, just because 10 years ago you would say, yeah, Nebraska's going to win this game, but I mean, Cincinnati was, I think they were 5-7 last year, but a lot of close losses. Like I think they're making the transition to the Big 12. Um, I saw something on Twitter about, they like, I'm not sure we fully know what to expect from that offense going into the game. And Nebraska, like, of course it couldn't be on a Saturday against Sisters of the Poor, work out your kinks, get to 1-0, right? Like it's like a double-edged sword. National audience, the whole country's hankering for college football. We got the spotlight on us. Great opportunity against a team we quote unquote should beat. Nebraska hasn't fared that well in games like that in the last 10 years. And so it just makes me a little bit nervous. I'm going to pick it as a win. And I have when we've done a couple scheduled prediction shows on our show, but it makes me nervous, Eric.
Well, fair enough. It's a good point, but I'm much closer to the Cincinnati program than you. You guys should be fine.
Okay, good. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
That makes me feel a lot better.
Then a program even closer to an Akron. You want to talk about bad football, buddy? I am pretty sure that there are some FCS schools that would have went into Akron last year and won that game pretty handedly. So that is a football program that is just been a dumpster fire for a while. You get that one at home. A 7:30 kick on the Big Ten Network under the lights in Lincoln, but that should be a win. I'm not going to spend any more time on that.
W.
The HCU Huskies. No, it's not the Connecticut Huskies. This is HCU Huskies roll into town on September 13th. 12 o'clock kick on Fox Sports 1. That's a W as well. So, non-con, other than Cincinnati, 2 wins. I think you guys go 3-0, start the season off, and feeling pretty good about things.
I'll take it. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
All right, here we go. Let's go September 20th. At home, 3:30 Eastern. This one's going to be on CBS. The Meat Chicken Wolverines roll into Lincoln. And, buddy, every Ohio State fan, maybe every Big Ten fan in the country is a Cornhusker that day. This is, to me, a huge game for both schools. They went. I think it was 8-5 last year overall. They had the big win over Ohio State. They had the big win over Alabama to finish things up after being like, I think they were 6-5 going in the game against Ohio State, and all of a sudden that just catapulted them into the offseason. They've got a freshman starting quarterback themselves, an Underwood coming into the house, coming into Lincoln. I need the Cornhusker fan base to be rabid that day, be loud, really rattle his cage, get under him, get in the backfield a lot. I'm leaning Nebraska.
I love that. I mean, I think it's a coin flip, if I'm being honest. I think Nebraska will be a lot better this year than they were last year. Michigan's interesting, right? Last year, Sharon Moore, obviously they're not stealing signs anymore, so they come back down to earth. Or maybe they're not stealing signs. They were stealing signs. They did a bad job of it. But they, as you point out, they ended really strong.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got this 5-star quarterback. Now, again, like that doesn't, I mean, we had a 5-star quarterback last year and like he had some growing pains. So like I'd like to think, we, like you said, we can get in his head in an environment like that in Lincoln. I think they'll probably be better. I think Michigan will be better than they were last year. I just don't know how much. And I don't know. It's hard to say. And I think they got Oklahoma 2 weeks before they play us. So
Mm-hmm.
that'll
They
tell
do.
us a lot. Um, but if I'm being totally honest, I think it'd be a major win for Nebraska from a perception standpoint, if nothing else. Even if Michigan ends up 6-6, I think it's a major win because of that helmet coming into Memorial Stadium. And it's also one we talk about a lot. Like if Nebraska wants to get where we want to go, or we want to get back to respectability, let's say like top 25 ish. These are the games you got to start winning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll gladly pick it as a W as well. But if I'm being totally honest, I think it's a coin flip.
Okay. Moving on. After your first bye, you still get another home game. This one being going to be the other team from that state up north. The Sparties are going to be rolling into town to take on Nebraska. If if you beat Big Brother, you're going to beat Little Brother. I'm good with that one.
I think.
For
I mean, I think Jonathan Smith is a good coach.
I do too, but this
Actually,
is year
too.
number 2 of a complete overhaul rebuild, man.
Yeah, yeah. And I am. If we do win, if we do beat Michigan, I'm a little bit worried about letdown against Michigan
But
State.
you got that nice
That,
buy in between.
I agree. I think that one's a win no matter what. So
And
so Eric,
where
you got
you
us starting 5-0, if I'm not mistaken.
if where you guys were a year ago, that's the mindset that Michigan State's in right now. We need to get to 6-6. That's their goal,
Yeah,
right?
that's probably right. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Let's move to the halfway mark of the season here. You're at Maryland for your first true road game of the season in the Big Ten. Maryland is a dumpster fire. They are the worst team in the Big Ten. That includes Purdue.
Do you think so? Do you think they're that? I mean,
Hundred
you
percent.
think they're that bad?
Oh, when go back and watch the Maryland preview from like 4 or 5 weeks ago. I
Okay.
have their student newspaper on. Those kids are like, dude, it's hopeless. They have they have checked out on that
Okay.
program right now. They are,
I'm thrilled
yeah.
to hear it.
That Maryland, you will waltz into Maryland and the game will be over by halftime.
Oh
That's my
God,
prediction.
that's great. That's great. Love to
Then
hear it.
the schedule is going to get interesting here for you, to say the least. So back-to-back road games. This one is going to be a Friday night. So you're coming home from Maryland on a Saturday night, and then you got to turn right around and you got to go to Minneapolis on a Friday night, taking on Minnesota on October 17th, 8 o'clock kick on Fox. TJ, this doesn't look good for you guys. See, here's where I have you taking an L.
This is a tough one. Uh, you're right about Friday night game, quick turnaround, 2 road games back to back. Your friend and mine, Geoff in Lincoln, despises PJ Fleck.
I understand.
Despises
I
PJ
can get why
Fleck.
he doesn't wear socks.
Right,
What
right.
what coach doesn't wear socks
Where's
on the
the socks?
sideline?
Right. The other really aggravating thing about Minnesota is that Nebraska has historically been better than Minnesota. We are and always will be the superior program. I will fight anyone who says otherwise. I will take that to my grave because of our own issues, not because Minnesota's good, because of our own dysfunction. We haven't beat them since 2018, and some of those losses, similar to some of the Iowa games, we've just completely handed away. We've been the more talented team, have completely handed the games away, and so I hate PJ Fleck. I hate Minnesota. I will never admit that they're better than us in anything, especially football. Um, However, I mean, I think I'll agree with you that between either Michigan or Minnesota, there's a loss there and hopefully not 2 losses. So I'll go with you that we're 6-1 after the Minnesota game. How about that?
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right. You get a rebound game, in my opinion. Northwestern is they returned to who they were a year ago,
Yeah.
and I think they stay there. They're building up for the new stadium, but
I think David Braun's another guy I think is a good coach.
I
I
do
think
too.
the new world of college football really disadvantages Northwestern, and I just think they're going to fall further and further behind. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but um,
I think there's going to be a lot of buzz for them next season when they open up that new stadium, but this year, man, I feel like it's going to be rinse and repeat to what you saw in 2024 from the Wildcats. I got
yeah.
that as a win. All right. USC comes to town on November 1st. USC is a team that has a lot of buzz this offseason. Their recruiting class for 2026 is the best in the Big Ten. You've got Lincoln out there saying that they are the team of the Big Ten this year. Don't know about that, but I think what he's trying to do is posture himself to where if they are, let's say, 9-3 at the end of the year, and they're in a mix and discussion with, say, another SEC team or something, that he's trying to already try to swing the narrative to see if they can't be that 12th team in the playoff or whatever. Um, this is a huge game for both these programs. Huge game. And right now, to me, this is a coin flip, complete coin flip. I think I'm leaning Nebraska because it's at home, and I really like your fan base.
I love that.
If
So yeah,
this
I
was in the
mean,
Coliseum, if this was in LA,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
nearly as confident.
Well, and if we're 7-1 going into this game, we're going to be in the top 25, assuming they're as good as people think. I mean, you're right. It's going to be a huge game. It's interesting. I've said from the beginning, not to pat myself on the back again, I've said from the beginning, like Lincoln Riley inherited the keys to the Cadillac at Oklahoma. And to his credit, he kept it running, right? And made the playoff, won the Big 12 several times, made the playoffs several times. As we've all seen, that's not always easy to
Had a
do.
bunch of Heisman winners.
Right. That's some high. So right. So like that, you can't just credit all of that to Bob Stoops. Like he kept it going, right? I have said many times it remains to be seen if he can build a winner, like a national championship program. And every year he's been there, you could argue they've taken a step back. I mean, there was similar buzz about them going into last year, if I recall correctly. And so I really don't know what to think about them. I think you're right. I think they're going to have a ton of talent. It just makes me nervous. And we went to LA last year and played a hell of a game. I wouldn't say we outplayed them like I felt like we did some other teams, but we were in it to the end. I'll probably pick this one as a loss, but I love that you have it as a win.
This one is the one that you're probably going to be like, Eric, you said what? I think UCLA is going to be a much better team this year. I saw Nico play firsthand when Tennessee came into Ohio Stadium. Listen, Ohio State blitzkrieged the Volunteers, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But that loss was not Nico's fault. In fact, out of the 22 people on the field playing that had a T on the side of their helmet, he was the only one who actually looked like he gave a damn.
Yeah.
So I think UCLA is going to take a major step this year. I think I got them going to a bowl game. I think that despite they have a difficult schedule, this is one of those. If you don't go out there and play your A game, you're going to go to the Rose Bowl and you're going to come away with an L going, what happened?
Yep.
This is a classic trap game for Nebraska.
It is, except last year UCLA came to Lincoln. We were 5-3. UCLA came in at 2-5. And I think there was a big expectation among the fan base. Here we go. We're going to get to bowl eligible. We're going to be 6-3, and let's see how the last 3 games go. Like 9-3 still on the table, right? And we laid an egg, man. I think we got down 20-7 or 28-7 or something. Anyway, we made a run. Like we had the ball. Now that's going to bother me. I got to look it up. Look up the final score. We had the ball and we're driving with a chance to win or tie. I was at that game. I should remember this so much better. Okay, yeah. We lost 27-20. So we made sort of a frantic comeback and had the ball down 7 and got within UCLA territory. And then through this weird pick, it like bounced off Ja'Cory Barney's leg and right into the UCLA's guy's hands. It was just like, please sum up the last 10 years of Nebraska football for me. Thank you very much. That kind of thing. But we really didn't, like, we laid an egg. We didn't play well enough to even be in it at the end. So it's at UCLA, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's majority Nebraska fans. They don't fill up that stadium very well. I mean,
They do
maybe
not. They do not. No.
maybe if they're humming with Nico and they're having a good year, maybe that's a different story. But there's a ton of from like Phoenix West. There's a ton of Nebraska, like native Nebraskans, right, who don't live in Nebraska anymore. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's a ton of Nebraska fans at that game. And I'm going to pick that one as a win, actually.
Okay.
So, but I told everything you're saying makes me nervous. I totally get it.
I think, and maybe I shouldn't do this because of just geography, but I still clump Nebraska in with everybody else in the Big Ten who's like east of the Mississippi. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
and so when you go west, it doesn't seem to go very well for any of us. But on the flip side, most of the teams that are west come east, it don't go well for them either. So
Right.
traveling is a real thing right now in the Big Ten. It needs to be taken into account. That's kind of how I look at it. Bye number 2 happens on November 15th, and then you have the Big 2 at the end of the year. Now, at Penn State on November 22nd. This is, again, could be, depending on where you guys are at, a massive game. Penn State's coming into this year probably as the number 1 ranked team in the country, just based off perception, returning talent, expectations. A lot of people are calling them the Michigan of 2023, the Ohio State of 2024 when it comes to player retention. But TJ, we have a saying here on the OHIO podcast. At some point, James Franklin will James Franklin himself.
Oh, okay. Okay. I like it.
You can feel free to use that one. Now, my co-host has called some pretty good upsets in his career.
Okay.
Where he's like, this is going to happen before the season starts. And he's probably about 60-70% on those.
Okay.
He thinks Nebraska can go into Penn State and can beat them.
Wow. I love that.
I don't, but I will say this. I think Drew Aller's better than I think your quarterback is better than Drew Aller.
Here's what I'm going to say. Sometimes, Eric, when I'm laying in bed at night thinking about the Nebraska football team, and I think, well, if the ball bounces our way and if certain things go our way, maybe, just maybe, we'll be 10-0 going into Penn State. Like, I realize that's not the most likely scenario. I realize I sound like a delusional Husker fan, which I am. If there's some sort of like scenario where Nebraska's in this magical run and we're 10-0 or 9-1, and I think everyone expects us to be better this year, but we're even better than people expect going to Penn State. Like, maybe it's just one of those years, right? But I just don't think that's going to happen. Even if it is one of those years, it's going to be hard to beat Penn State at Penn State, especially with as good as they are. I got to pick it as a loss. Of course, I'm going to be dancing in the streets, and everyone from Omaha to the Colorado border will be dancing in the streets if we win this game. I don't think Rule Squad is quite there, but that's why they play the games, right?
That's right. Okay, and then the last one. TJ, let's just do it. Let's get it over with. I said we. That's how much I'm invested in this right now.
Love that.
I like Joel from 12 Saturdays podcast. I like him a lot. I cannot stand his team. Outside of the team that wears maize and blue, my least favorite team in the Big Ten has a stupid bird on the side of their helmet. It's personal. I have personal reasons why I don't like that state or that team. And I'm fully in on Nebraska corn is better as well in this argument.
Thank you, Eric. Well said.
Uh, and now and I'm not going to be delusional here. Ohio doesn't have a doesn't have a seat at that table when it comes to corn. But don't
Sure, you have some corn.
we have some corn. It's pretty good, but it's not Nebraska corn. Yeah, this time it has to happen. You're at home.
Yep.
You've had a good season, I think. I've got you at right now, probably I think 8-3 is where I have you at it this season. It's time to get that ninth win, get the monkey off your back, and send Kirk Ferentz to the nursing home.
I completely agree. Here's the infuriating thing, Eric, is our first 4 years in the Big Ten, we beat Iowa 3 out of 4 years. And it was kind of like not even a thing for us. When we came into the Big Ten, we were coming off 2 back-to-back Big 12 championship games. We were thinking of ourselves as like Wisconsin, Michigan State was really good at the time. And like kind of looking forward or embracing the idea of playing Ohio State and Michigan. Like we belonged in that tier of the conference. Obviously, it hasn't gone that way. And then in the Riley era, they beat us pretty bad a couple of years. I mean, I think you could pick 2 to 4 years where they were objectively better than us. There have been so many other games where it was either equal or we were better. And somehow we found a way to give the game away. And it's been so infuriating. And I mean, I'll just go back 2021, we take a 21-6 lead into the fourth quarter and lose it. 2022, we actually beat them. That was the year Frost got fired. It was a total dumpster fire. Somehow we beat them. We were 4-8, and that was one of our wins in 22. 2023 was like two of the worst possible teams, two of the worst possible offenses you can imagine. And it was 10-10. And here's the insane thing, Eric. And then last year I mentioned we had a 10-0 lead at halftime. We outplayed them in every statistical category and somehow found a way to give that game away. Here's the insane thing. In both 2023 and 2024, it was 10-10 with less than a minute to go in the fourth quarter, and Nebraska had the ball. And in both of those scenarios, Iowa won it with a field goal in regulation. Let me say that again. 2 years in a row, Nebraska has the ball in a tie game with less than a minute to go. Worst case scenario should be overtime, right?
Mm-hmm.
We turned it with 23, we throw a pick, 24, we fumble, and then we allow them into field goal range and they kick a game-winning field goal. That is so painful to even say. It's infuriating to say. I agree with you. We're calling it. We're gonna get over the hump in 2025, and we're not going to look back. Like we're not going to continue losing to these guys on a regular basis. We are and always will be superior to the Iowa Hawkeyes, and we're going to start proving it in 2025.
Yeah, I need that. I need that for you guys. I need that for the annoying Iowa fans that show up in my mentions for some reason. When Iowa came to the Horseshoe a couple years ago, we went down and we tailgated, and there was a ton of Iowa people tailgating there right by the Horseshoe, and I was like, how did these people get here? You know, normally you don't see that. They are some of the most loud, brash fans I have met.
They've never won anything for no reason. For no reason. Like, congratulations on your 7 to 8 wins every year.
It was. I think it was was it 2017 or 2018 year? I think it was 2017. Ohio State came back and beat Penn State at home, and then the very next week went to Iowa and they just crushed us. It was like the worst loss in the Urban Meyer era.
I remember that was kind of just shocking. Like what's going on?
It was shockingly bad. Well, they here we are. It's almost 8 years later. My buddy, they still hold on to that. They still talk to us about that. I'm like, guys, since then we've crushed you guys multiple times. Like,
yep, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Anyways, I need Nebraska to win this football game. So if you're keeping track at home, guys, I've got, and of course we'll go over this, Chris and I, here in just a minute after TJ and I are done talking. But I think the ceiling for this team, TJ, you see if you agree or disagree with it. I think the ceiling's 10-2.
Agree. That's what I was going to say.
I think the floor is no worse than 6-6.
I mean, if you've been through the last 10 years as a Husker fan, you would say it can always get worse.
Right, but it
I don't
can't.
think that's likely. I don't think
I
that's
don't
likely.
think it can, man.
Yeah.
You guys have been through the ringer.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this weird like talking point out there amongst blue blood programs, which Nebraska, the team up north, USC, Ohio State, and the Big Ten. Those are your four. Penn State would like to try to make an argument. I would make an argument they're not a blue blood. And then we just ticked off every Penn State fan that was watching this, if there were any,
Yeah, that's
with
right.
that
That's right.
comment. But there's this discussion point out there amongst blue bloods of what would it look like if you hired the wrong guy or things. And a year ago, you guys did that whole story of how we got here as Nebraska,
Yeah.
and of course, as a Ohio State fan, you say, that would never happen, but you never say never. I just feel like at this point, you've turned the corner. 6-6 will be an absolute disaster of a season moving forward.
I hope you're right, man. And I think everyone believes Rule's the right guy. It's harder than ever to win in college football. But I think, you know, like, I think like 8 to 10 wins this year would feel like a major step forward. And Nebraska is going to have, I mean, we are like the fan support and the money's always going to be there. So we're going to be invested in facilities. We're going to be invested in NIL. We have all the other things the passion is there. It's a great place to play. The players are rock stars. Now they can come make money and get sponsorships with local businesses, all these things. Everything will be there. Right. And I hope to God that you're right. It's been to your point. I grew up in the 90s when we were winning everything. It would have been unfathomable to suggest that we would have a stretch like we've just had for literally a decade. And so feel just sort of like PTSD, snake bitten, whatever you want to call it. But I think everything is kind of in place, but they've got to show it on the field, right? And I think a lot of Husker fans they're somewhere between hope and belief, but they also just need to see it at this point.
Yeah, makes sense, man.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun, TJ. It's always good to catch up with you and the Common Fan. You guys are some of my favorite people, dude. It's always good to catch up with you guys, talk ball with you guys. We're gonna do it again on the College Huddle, everybody. Some point we'll have these guys over on the College Huddle.
Be awesome.
So if you're a Nebraska fan, go check out the College Huddle. And at the end of this preview, the College Huddle. It's a great place for college fans to gather. We do everything from G5 all the way up to the Blue Bloods, talking ball, and it's a great place. We'll get those guys over there. TJ, just in case a Nebraska fan stumbled on this and they don't know who you are, tell everybody about the Common Fan where they can find you.
Let's be clear, that'd be unlikely. But no.
Well, you do have Geoff and Lincoln as a
We
part
do
of
have
your
Geoff
show.
and Lincoln. That's right, the famous Geoff and Lincoln. Shout out to my co-hosts, Mattio and Geoff and Lincoln. So you can find us on YouTube. So go just search Common Fan Podcast on YouTube. Go to our website, commonfan.co, and that where you can see all the written content, all the episodes. We're on all the audio platforms, and you sign up for the newsletter, subscribe on YouTube, social media accounts, all those things. So I would say search Common Fan Podcast on either YouTube or any of where you get your audio version of podcasts, and then commonfan.co is our website. So you can find it all in one place.
If all else fails, go to thecollegehuddle.com. Scroll over to Big Ten, down to Nebraska. There it is. You'll find every link you'll ever want for the Common Fan, and you'll find all their content right there as well. So, multiple ways to get your Nebraska fix.
That's right. Always great to talk to you, Eric. I appreciate you having me, and we're big fans of yours as well.
Appreciate that, and thankfully we don't have to play each other this year. I think
that's right.
That fell right on the schedule this year. So
I
mean, what you guys have made us sweat last couple years, buddy.
I know. Well, we haven't gotten over the hump, so maybe you'll run. Maybe we will go 10-2 in 2025, and by the time we play again in 2026, you're just going to run into a Nebraska freight train. That would be great from my perspective, but we'll see.
I've got 2026 circled as our next national championship team.
Hey, me too.
Hey. All right, everybody. Make sure you guys go check out the Common Fan. TJ, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Great to see you as
Have a
always.
great season. And thank you to TJ Merkel from the Common Fan for joining me for that great interview. I told you all he was just a wealth of knowledge, man. Just dropping nuggets all over the place. And as you heard, man, he's a realistic Cornhusker fan, but he's optimistic. And as I informed him, Chris, you and I are as well. We are very optimistic about the Cornhuskers this year. So Vegas says 7.5. I'm taking the over.
I'm pounding the over, Eric.
It didn't work for us last year, but I am pretty confident in this team and in this coach. And at some point, karma is gonna go your way, the good way. And I feel like that's where Nebraska's at. And so let's go ahead and look at the schedule one more time for all of you. We went over it with TJ. Let's go over it now, Chris, you and myself, and share with everybody how we both ended up on 9-3 on the season for the Cornhuskers. They take on Cincinnati to start the season. That game is in Kansas City, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. I got Nebraska with a win over the Cincinnati Bear Kittens.
As do I, Eric. I think that's going to be. I honestly, let's be honest. You look at these first 3 games, and these should all be wins, Eric.
Sure, Akron is one of the worst teams in the MAC, and Houston Christian, better known as HCU Huskies, are an FCS team. So yeah, they should all be wins. But Cincinnati
can be feisty.
They can be feisty, sure, but yeah, you're better than them. So I think you need to act like it. September 20th. I know you want to call that an upset, Chris.
I've got it as a win, Eric, and I don't think it's that. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's an upset. I think Nebraska should be favored in that game.
Woo!
Nebraska is at home. Nebraska's got the more experienced team. I think Nebraska has the better head coach. Nebraska should be favored to beat that team up north at home on September 20th.
At the time of this recording, there has not been any news broke about what sanctions or punishment might be coming down on the team from Ann Arbor. That could change a lot of people's opinion about a lot of those games that they have, including their trip to Nebraska. I'm with you, Chris. I'm calling the upset. I've got Nebraska beating the Maize and Blue in this. I just feel like Dylan Raiola is going to lead them to a victory. I feel good about it, man. I feel like this will be that game where the Nebraska faithful can say, "All right, we are doing things now." So we both have them at 4-0. We got a bye on September 27th versus Michigan State. I have that as a win.
As do I.
At Maryland, I have that as a win. Maryland, I think, is the worst team in the Big Ten.
Agreed.
All right, next up, at Minnesota. This is where I think they might lose their first game.
Yeah, I've got Minnesota is not an easy place to play, Eric. I think that PJ Fleck's gonna have a pretty good Minnesota squad this year.
It's a Friday night game.
It's a Friday night game.
On a short week turnaround after traveling all the way to Maryland.
Correct. I think a lot of the odds are against Nebraska in this one. This is where I do have them suffering their first loss.
But if they win that game,
hold
on to your butts. Nebraska's going to be competing for college football playoff.
I agree.
Versus Northwestern on October 25th. It's at home. That is going to be a win.
Mm-hmm.
November 1st versus USC. They went out to the Coliseum last year. They played okay, but they came away with a loss. Do they get their revenge here?
Eric, I actually have this as the lone home loss on their schedule.
Ooh.
I would love to say this is it, but I feel like USC is coming in fresh off a bye. They are either going to be really high or really PO'd following the Notre Dame game, and they've had that whole week to stew about it or celebrate it one way or the other. Could it be a letdown game for USC? Sure. I don't think so. I think they're going to be riding either a really big high or they're going to come in very, very angry. Either way, I think USC narrowly wins this one.
I have Nebraska winning this football game, Chris.
I can see it.
I think USC is going to have a hangover after getting thumped by your Marcus Freeman led Notre Dame Fighting Irish. November 8th at UCLA. I think we may have flip-flopped these. That's my guess. I have them losing on the road at UCLA. They lost to them last year at home. I think they go out to the Rose Bowl, and I think that they're feeling really good about themselves, having only one loss on the season, and this is a letdown, facepalm type of moment for them.
And for me, it's just the opposite. I think this is their redemption game.
Yeah.
They get a chance to get back on the winning track and get a little moniker of revenge for last season.
They then have a bye on November 15th, and then they head out to Happy Valley to take on the Nittany Lions. I have them losing this game, but Chris, I want to talk myself into somehow they win that game.
I do too, but at the same time, I look at this game and I see, for me, this game has whiteout written all over it. I feel like we could definitely get a whiteout for this.
I think this has got Fox Big Noon Kick written all over it myself.
Well, what are they going to do with Ohio State and Rutgers if they put Penn State on at noon?
Oh, that's what the Big Ten Network's for. Don't you worry, or Peacock.
I just, to me, I feel like Penn State at home, I would love to see Nebraska win this one. And you know what? I think they could. They definitely have the talent to do it. And I would also say this about that. I think a lot of that depends on Penn State as well. Penn State at that point should be coming into that game, off of a Michigan State win, going into a Rutgers win. Do they get lazy? Do they maybe be sitting back on their laurels a little bit? Because I know a lot of people have them picked to maybe lose to Ohio State, possibly Ohio State and Oregon. I actually have them losing 3 games, Eric. But yeah, I mean, if they're a 1 or 2 loss, especially if they're a 2-loss team, Penn State's going to be dangerous.
Could you imagine a world, and when we get to November 22nd, where Nebraska beats them, they only have 2 losses, and Penn State loses their 3rd or 4th game here?
I would love to see it.
It would
put a smile on my face.
They would be calling for James Franklin's head in Happy Valley. He would be enemy number 1 in the state of Pennsylvania, no doubt about it.
Agreed. And I'll tell you what, the other thing is, I think Matt Rule might finally get the credit he deserves.
And Matt Rule, being, I think, a Pennsylvania guy, there might be a lot of Penn State fans wanting him to come take over the program.
It's possible, Eric. It's possible.
Here's how I think Nebraska's turned the corner. November 28th versus Iowa at home. I think they not only win this game, I think they dominate this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a Nebraska team that is, I think Iowa is in the process of slowly dying off. I think we're in that slow descent with Kirk Ferentz. It's going to see them start to steadily decline. And I think I'm with you. I think this is going to be a dominant Nebraska team, especially should they lose to Penn State, because I think this is a team at that point that will be playing for their college football playoff lives, that's going to be playing for a better bowl game at minimum. Yeah, I think this is a team that goes in there and makes a statement and gets a statement win against Iowa to finish the season.
So that is how Chris and I both have them getting to be 9-3 in the Big Ten, playing at a really good bowl game, maybe a New Year's Six bowl game, or at least one of the bigger bowl games. Maybe not the college football playoff, but at least one of the better bowl games. I think that 9-3 is good enough to probably be in the conversation at the end of the season, but probably not good enough to get in, because I think you're going to see that there's going to be 4 teams in the Big Ten with only 2 losses or less. But that game against USC, circle that one, because that might be the difference between 9-3 and 8-4 for both teams, and would give you the 5th place finish in the Big Ten more than likely, in my opinion, and probably get you to a really, really good bowl game.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I was actually, when you said that, I was just looking at my USC script, and I actually do have them at 9-3 as well. So you're right. One of these teams is going to be 9-3. The other's going to be 8-4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, that's where we're at with the Cornhuskers this year. Chris says, hammer the over, everybody. I say you should probably consider it. Chris says, hammer it. But we both, if we were going to lay money today, we would lay money on the over. We think Vegas is wrong at 7.5. We think the Cornhuskers are going to be a better football team in 2025. All right, let us know what you think about what we think down in the comments section below. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch our preview video. We knew this was going to be a long one. These last few are going to be long for several reasons. Number one, we're getting down to the better teams in the Big Ten. Number two, we're getting down to some of the better interviews that we have as well. And so that means I enjoy talking with these people, and those interviews go on a little bit longer. And we're talking about really good football teams. And so these previews get a little bit longer. We hope you are enjoying them. Please consider, again, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Enjoy the season, Cornhusker fans. I'm glad we don't have to play you guys this year, because you guys always seem to play us really well. But who knows? Maybe we'll see you in Indianapolis. I don't know. Weirder things have happened. But either way, enjoy the season, everybody. Thank you so much. Till next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen High with all your heart. Chris, you know what to do. OH.
I-O.
Go Bucks.